Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for attending tonight. My name is Ryan Donahue. I'm the athletic director here at Stoughton High School. I appreciate you taking the time to come here to kind of get ahead of the game. No pun intended, that's awful. You know, starting athletics at the high school level can be a little overwhelming if you don't know what you're really getting into. So today is really a good way to kind of see, you know, the big picture of what we're trying to do here for the athletic department and make sure that you don't have any questions heading into the summer about where to start. Okay. At the tail end of this, we're going to do a Q&A. So if you have any questions, you know, make sure you put them in your notes or whatever it is, and then that way we can address it afterwards and make sure you leave with all of your questions answered. Sound good? So again, my name is Ryan Donahue. I'm the athletic director. I just finished my 7th year as athletic director. It's hard to believe it goes by so quick. Some of your children I had at the elementary level. I used to be an elementary phys ed teacher. At the Gibbons Elementary, actually, and now it's been just such a highlight of my career to be able to watch a lot of these kids that I saw grow up really achieve extraordinary things here at the high school level, so it's been great. Also, below my name, our guest speaker today is Dr. Dan Muse. I'm going to call him up in a little while. We're going to go through a few slides, and Dr. Muse is going to talk to you about concussions and opioid use as well. So, really happy that Dr. Muse made it. He works in emergency medicine at Signature Healthcare, so it's a great privilege to have him here today. Okay, so really the first place to start is registration. We're trying to make this as easy as possible for families to get a student athlete registered. So we are actually live with registrations now, and it's as easy as 1, 2, 3, okay? So online registration is currently open. Now, once we get through some of the slides and we get to the Q&A, I'm also gonna do a website tutorial, which is really, really fast, I promise, just to make sure that everybody understands how to do it. So it's currently open, meaning that you can go home tonight and you can register for the fall before you go to sleep tonight. It should take about 30 minutes, and then there's also a concussion education video. This concussion education video is something that you're gonna have to do every year for the 4 years that you're here. It's just mass general law. You need to be educated about concussions because of how severe they are in the area of your body that is being injured. You know, it's your brain. It's not like, you know, you break an ankle and then you can recover and get back. You know, brain injuries can tend to be pretty serious. So you have to watch that concussion education video, and on the website tutorial, I'll show you exactly where that is and how you do it. For both the registration process, which is Family ID, we use, and the NFHS concussion education video, you have to you'll have to create a username and password, but both are free. And the nice thing, if you do an additional season, so let's say I was going to play soccer in the fall, and then in the winter time I was going to do indoor track. Well, if you do soccer in the fall and you register in the fall with Family ID, it will save all of your information with emergency contacts, healthcare, all that stuff, so that when you go to register in the wintertime, it's literally clicking indoor track and then you're done with registration. So it's a great thing to have. We're really fortunate that the district has supported us in getting that going. And it also is a great way too, where you would have your email addresses there so we could contact you, or your phone numbers in there for emergency contacts like everything else. Now, speaking of online things, we are totally moving into the future. We have online athletic fee payments. I can't believe I'm saying that out loud. It's a great day in Stoughton athletics history. This literally went live like yesterday. So there is a link online that you can absolutely just click. Now, the company that we're using for that is called Parent Online. Raise your hand if you've heard of Parent Online. You'd pay like your bus fees with that, or your lunch fees, I think. It's the same program, and in this you would just look and it would just say athletics, and then it would have the $200 mark that you would click to pay. That's a great deal. There are a lot of towns that are fully funded, which means if you want to participate in a sport, the makeup of the students that play the sport pay for the entire thing. That is not the case in Stoughton High School, okay? So this is a great deal. Let's say, again, you were going to play soccer in the fall. Well, you pay the $200 to play soccer, and we really encourage 3-sport athletes. So $200 in the fall will also get you If you played basketball in the winter and spring track in the spring, you wouldn't have to pay any additional money for those 2 sports. But if you were to only play 1 sport, it would still cost you $200, okay? So $200 includes a uniform, it includes coaching, it includes officials at every game, it includes transportation to all away games. This is like a great deal to have your son or daughter really be involved in something for 4 years, and this will cover you for a year, but to have every day, 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days for them, a safe place for them to go with good role models around and qualified and security. All of our coaches go through a security clearance. So to be surrounded by that for that short of money for a long period of time, in my eyes, I feel like it's a great deal. The only 2 that are more expensive than that, if you do play ice hockey or if you do swim, and that's directly correlated to the off-site rental fees. So basically, if I were to play field hockey in the fall and then I wanted to do girls ice hockey in the winter, and I paid the $200 in the fall, well, in the wintertime, when that were to come, you would only owe an additional $100. It wouldn't be a separate $300 fee. So it's a $300 limit per student. And the last part of the registration is really the physical exam. This is the part that drives me mental because it's the furthest thing from anyone's mind, and I get that. But legally, I'm not allowed to let anybody participate unless we have an up-to-date physical examination on file in the nurse's office, okay? So a lot of people tend to wait until the last second, and what that results in is them not being able to participate in like the first couple days of tryouts. So my advice to you would be, no matter when the last physical was, I would get a hard copy of that and I would deliver it to the high school nurse's office. We do transfer all of the physicals from the middle school to the nurse's office, but just to play it safe, just in case you really want to make sure that first day goes smoothly for your incoming 9th grader over the summer, I think it would be worth a trip to just make sure that they have it. You confirm, just say, hey, yeah, they're coming into 9th grade. Just want to make sure you have this on file. I know it expires in November. I'll get you my newest copy then, but at least you have this one. And then the way that the expiration date works is just like it's listed. It must be less than 13 months old. So really you have 12 full months of eligibility. And that's a direct reflection to like a lot of insurance programs. They don't let you, our insurance plans don't let you book an additional physical inside of a 12-month calendar year. So just an example of that, a given student becomes ineligible when the physical expires at the 13-month mark. The example is if I had a September 5th of last year's physical, so if at the start of this previous school year, if I had had a physical, that would be good for this entire school year and then past September, but to October 4th. So that means if I was playing soccer in the fall or football in the fall and it is October 5th and I haven't turned in a new physical, then it's my job to unfortunately tell your son or daughter or you as a student athlete that you cannot participate in practice or a game until we get your newest physical on file. That's just mass general law. That it hasn't always been that way, but that's the way it is now. So parents and then student athletes too, for you to be diligent about this is a huge help. And then it also really takes those uncomfortable conversations of you not participating out of the equation. So try to do your best to get that squared away before the school year ends. The nurse on duty at the high school, her name is Mrs. Barrett. She's lovely, and she'll be happy to take that physical and not have to chase anybody down. Academics. This is everything, okay? So students, very important for you to pay attention right now. A student athlete, student will always come first. And then things to keep in mind as school begins. So I've seen a lot of people in the last 7 years really knock the cover off the ball. And what I mean academically, like for example, we had a student who played hockey and he was our tennis captain. He was also the valedictorian this year. He got accepted to Harvard and he actually declined going to Harvard because Georgetown was a better fit for him, and Georgetown is exceptionally difficult to get into as well. So opportunities are here for you to go wherever you want. But this 4-year window right here, and really it's 3 years, freshman, sophomore, and junior year, the work you compile in the classroom, it is under such a microscope for these colleges. So like I said right there, give it everything you have. If you didn't do exceptionally well in middle school, turn the page, okay? Let's focus on what we can control moving forward. If you can give it your best effort every single day when you're here, you're gonna set yourself up for having a lot of opportunities when you leave Stoughton High School. I've seen it. I've also seen the flip side of that. Students think that they were invincible and laughing it off and, yeah, no, I failed 2 classes, you know, whatever it is, and then they end up not having opportunities when they leave because they were too busy, you know, not getting what they should be getting done on a regular basis. Students, when you're here, your job is to get all of your work done. Study for tests, take tests, and dominate, okay? That is your job. My job is to make sure the athletic department works really well and flows seamlessly on a daily basis. Your job is to take care of your schoolwork, and if you do that, you will really set yourself up for the next level. So do whatever it takes. Stay after school for extra help. Never miss a homework assignment. Whatever it is that needs to get accomplished to help you achieve your goals, this is the time to do it. It's such a small window of time, and if you look back when you graduate and you move on to the next level, you'll really be happy that you spent the extra time and you studied a little bit more. And if you are looking to get into colleges, it's so competitive now. So if you really do want to go to a college, you want to make sure you're getting pretty much A's and B's only. If you're getting much below that, you're going to automatically take yourself out of windows of certain schools. And that's just the reality of the situation right now. So a lot of students really start off slowly when they get to high school. They you know, all of a sudden the work starts to compile and then they miss, then they don't do well in their first term. And then you're going to spend the next year really digging yourself out of that hole. So really start off really, you know, as strongly as you can. Another motivation is if you do want to play sports, you have to be academically eligible, okay? So the rule heading into next year is that if you have 1 failing grade, you would be allowed to participate. If you have more than 1 failing grade, you are ineligible, okay? So it doesn't matter how good you are, who you are, it doesn't matter if you're not getting the schoolwork done that goes with it. All right? And the freshman academic program is something that you would also need to understand. This is a specific program generated by this administration to really help student athletes that are just making the transition from middle school to high school recognize that they need to get, you know, their act in gear. So when the first progress report comes out, like I said, it doesn't matter who you are or how good at sports you are. You know, this past year it happened to about 4 or 5 kids, right, Coach Burke, on the freshman football team. They had 1 F or 2 Fs on their first progress report, and because of this program, they're immediately deemed ineligible and they cannot finish the season until the next report card comes out. And the way the timing works with that is the report card doesn't come out until right before Thanksgiving. So they, in effect, miss the entire fall freshman season because progress reports come out pretty quickly. So you gotta make sure you get to, you know, take care of your academics right away. You know, at Stoughton High School, we've been dedicated to citizenship since 1920. I haven't been here that whole time, but I have seen it on the front of the building that was built in 1920 that says dedicated to citizenship. Honestly, I think that that is just a great thing to be dedicated to. There is more to life, you know, than scoring 1,000 points, or more to life than being an all-star or getting a college scholarship. We're really about the big picture. And I think athletics is a great vehicle to gaining an understanding of the big picture, okay? And when I say big picture, I don't just mean, I mean life lessons that can be learned outside of the classroom. You're gonna learn a lot of valuable stuff in the classroom, 100%. But I think understanding what it's like to lose, understanding what it's like to go through an injury, understanding what it's like to have teammates and be there for each other, and shared memories. Those are all big picture things. And I would say the biggest picture is probably sportsmanship. That's something that we take a lot of pride in. Whether we win or we lose, we're going to do it with class. And if you're not doing it with class, I'm going to let you know about it, and it's not going to happen moving forward. So I take pride in holding our student athletes to a high standard. Students must get to school on time. If you're going to be an athlete, you have to get to school and be in class for 7:35, okay? If you are late to school, then we're allowed one freebie. If you're late to school one time, we allow you to participate that day because we understand things happen. But if you are late past that one time, unfortunately, you won't be able to participate in practice, or if there's a game that day, you won't be able to play in the game, and that's just the rule, how it is. You have to be to school on time. Behave at all times. If we're having issues in the classroom with teachers and I find out about it, there's going to be repercussions with playing time. That's just how we operate here. We have no tolerance for people who aren't representing the athletic department in a positive light. We need them to focus on academics, live a healthy lifestyle, commit to a team, give back to the town, be there for teammates, and represent the town of Stoughton. That's something that really shouldn't be taken lightly. There are a lot of people that care a lot about this town. I think that was obvious in the most recent vote. You guys stand to gain a lot from that, and it makes me really proud to be here during this transition. And you guys are going to have a lot to kind of work around in the process, but you stand to really experience it too. So it's really a pretty cool balance that you'll have. These responsibilities that I just mentioned are expectations. This is something if this is something that you think that you're going to struggle with, you might want to second guess being a part of the athletic program. But I totally believe that everyone is capable of making good decisions and doing the right thing and holding themselves to a high expectation. I think that you should totally give it a try. Okay, buckle up. It's going to be a roller coaster. So high school years are extraordinarily challenging, not just for the students, but also for parents. There's a lot of different emotions going on. There are a lot of forms of drama that can happen in high school years. So just prepare yourself for that. It's not going to be smooth sailing 100% of the time. If it is, congratulations, you are like the minority big time. So, just know that with every positive, there is also going to be moments of like, I cannot believe that this is happening type of moments, or this is ridiculous, I can't, whatever. So every season of athletics is going to be different. If you were to play baseball, in your 4 years playing baseball, odds are is that every year you're going to have some form of a different experience. We're hoping that the majority of these, let's leave it at majority. We're hoping that the majority of these experiences are going to be very, very positive, okay? So it's important to remember why you're participating in athletics. So just to kind of put it out there, I'm not sure if you're aware of this stat, but a lot of people would try to come into athletics looking to get a full ride to a college scholarship. That's well and good. That is exceptionally rare, okay? So less than 1% of high school athletes earn any form of college scholarship. But if you are a multiple sport athlete, it looks really good when you are applying to colleges that you are not afraid to get involved. You're not afraid of competition. You're not afraid of putting yourself out there, okay? These are all things that you learn when you're participating in athletics, and they do look really great on college applications, especially if you are a good natural leader and you aren't afraid of responsibility. You end up becoming a captain. Looking at some people in the audience right now, like, some of you will probably become a captain of the sport, and there's additional responsibilities that go with that. But when you're putting that on your college application, or you're asking me to write a letter of recommendation for you, it goes a long way with these colleges. Not all teammates will get along 100% of the time. There are some sports where I'm going to take cheerleading, for example. Cheerleading's a very difficult sport to participate in because they don't have a ton of games. Like during our fall season, they only have 2 competitions in there at the end of the season. Then they go to different games during the season to support our football team. But to have practices all the time and go through routine after routine, do it again, and to have 15 to 20 girls in the same room and being told that you're not doing something completely right all the time, good luck to that coach. Holy smokes, like that's not an easy thing to do. And then there's automatically going to be some emotional moments that go into it. That's just part of high school. But it's important, like if you do have those issues, to go about them the right way. So if you're having a problem with something, talk to your coach. If you've tried talking to your coach and they don't listen, which probably won't happen, you can come and see me. We can talk about it. My door is always open. And then we also have peer mediation in the high school. So if you're having you're butting heads with somebody, just try to get out in the open with it and try to talk to somebody about it so you don't let it fester. 99% of the drama can be solved in 15, 20 minutes, okay? So go about it the right way, talk about peer mediation, or just go to the coaching staff, or even talk to the student that you're having a hard time with and see if you can resolve things like adults. Not every coach is a perfect fit for every student athlete and their family. Our coaches aim to please, but at the varsity level, they will prioritize team goals over individual playing times. Okay, so make sure that you know that if you're not getting the amount of playing time that maybe you thought, unfortunately the coaches have to make difficult decisions, and that's one of them, and they're going to prioritize winning at the varsity level. Freshmen and JV, that's not always the case. We're really working on development at that stage, okay? So it's really important to know that going in, and they're usually not putting people in that would help them lose. So that can be a really tough thing tough emotion to grapple with if you're not getting the amount of playing time that you think that you should. But if you are having issues with whatever, you can always come and talk to me about it. Also, injuries are a reality. When you play a varsity sport, or even a freshman or junior varsity sport, it's not Little League anymore. Students are starting to grow. Kids are lifting weights and really doing a lot of preseason conditioning. So injuries also happen as a result of the game moving a lot faster and becoming more physical. If you have an injury and you see a doctor, you need to bring that doctor's note to us so that we are updated with it. We also have a certified athletic trainer on staff. She does a great job. Her name is Jen Dowd. She was here a little earlier. She can do a lot of preventative maintenance to work with you to avoid injuries. So really try to do your best to deal with those injuries. And sometimes it's really hard because you're out for a certain amount of time and then you might lose your spot, and it can be really hard to deal with. So just know that injuries can happen. And then actually, I had mentioned before, we have Dr. Dan Muse here today. He's going to talk to you a little bit more about concussions and opioids as well. So please give Dr. Muse a big round of applause. Come on up, Dr. Muse. We're just going to change out PowerPoint.
Switch. All right.
I'll let them get started. Thank you for having me. Please don't hold it against me. I wore my Stoughton shirt. I'm actually from Canada. Don't hold it against me. I'm not a Canadite. I'm one of those carpetbaggers who's got fourth generation.
This is just for the video recording, but you'll have to use that microphone as well.
Okay. Get this one. I have a great Irish whisper. I'm not sure I'll actually need this. So, I presume we're all new kids, 8th graders coming to the high school next year. Good. Why don't you all come out to the front? Come on, up, let's go. Come on. Freshmen up here, or future freshmen. Guys and girls, this is about you guys. I know, this is the last thing you wanted to do. Parents made you come to it, decided to sit in back. It's like going to church, find the back aisle, Phil, go forward. All right, so how many play football? All right, can you please, just once in your 4-year, let the kitten win once. You're playing them twice a year. All right, that's the least we can ask of you guys. Make them feel good about themselves. So I believe I get a clicker here somewhere, don't I? Is this?
No, that's for the projector. I can click it.
All right, I'll do it. I'll stand over here, which, I'll just stand. I'll lean. I'm good at leaning on edges. All right, so today what we're going to talk about, we're going to go through concussions and substance abuse. Unfortunately, substance abuse has become a major issue, and unfortunately, it has hit every community in America. No community is safe. I don't care where you live, it is there. And unfortunately, I tell people we call it 3 degrees of separation of an overdose. And most everybody knows somebody who has had an overdose or died from one. It is a tragedy that is unparalleled in this country. I've worked very closely with district attorneys' offices, and for Stoughton, it is Norfolk County District Attorney Mike Morrissey, who has been at the forefront from this from the very beginning and has, quite frankly, been a leader in this area. So first, concussions. What are they? Well, they're brain injuries. They're a physical assault on the brain. In substance abuse, it's a chemical assault. In both cases, we're destroying the brain. We're just doing it differently. So, First, concussion itself. There's always this talk about exactly what's going on, and it is a physical injury. However, at the level that it occurs, it's not something that you're going to actually see on a CAT scan or an MRI. It is what we call a biochemical process. But what happens is the brain gets shuffled around. You get hit, you fall, you hit your head. Not only does a direct impact possibly cause a concussion, but your brain doesn't sit right up against the skull. So it swishes around. It's like taking an egg and shaking it. And that's what's going on in your brain. And by the way, it's not very good for the brain. And we refer to them as mild traumatic brain injury, which is sort of an oxymoron because these things can last a very long time. They can be debilitating, and most importantly, if they occur over and over again, can become permanent effects on the brain. The one thing, as I said, you're not going to see them on a CAT scan or MRI. So a point to be taken here is that when you do get a concussion, and when you do go to the emergency department because the symptoms are significant, if the doctor gets a CAT scan or an MRI, it's not being done to see if you have a concussion. It's being done to make sure nothing else is going on, that you don't have a fracture to the skull, that you don't have a bleed in the brain, things that would show up on these. And then they can come back more reassured and say it's a concussion. Is it necessary to always get a CAT scan or MRI when you have a concussion? Absolutely not. The vast, vast majority of them do not need it. And I don't get them if I believe that that's all we're dealing with. So, how do you think you get a concussion? Any of you guys want to guess? Okay, you look smart. You, yes. Don't turn your head around. So what do you think happens? Bingo, you got the easy one. You get hit in the head with the ball, or a stick, or a puck, or you fall. Okay, can you get a concussion just by stopping short? Somebody stands you up, you're running really fast, you're playing football, and you get stopped, you know, they basically stand you up, stop you in your tracks, and then they put you down. Can you get a concussion? Never hit your head. Can you get a concussion without hitting your head? Football player. You just saying yes because you're guessing? You know for sure? How much money you have? You want to bet on this? Yes, you don't have to hit your head to get a concussion. So what happens? Well, the direct blow to the head obviously will cause it. And I think those are pretty clear cut what is going on here in terms of the concussions. You got a knee to the head. That looks like it hurts down there. All right. But when you get stopped in your tracks, the same thing happens here. So here you have cases where they're going down, falling. Steph Curry, that was actually a YouTube video of him going up and over. And in these cases, they didn't hit their heads. They fell, they hit the ground, but obviously they stopped short. And in all the cases, their body got hit. They never hit their heads in the vast majority of these, but because they came to such an abrupt stop, I told you the brain doesn't sit right up against the skull, so it went slapping on the inside, back and forth, causing concussions. And so in both of those cases, you can get a concussion. Now these are sort of really bad injuries. I mean, you lose consciousness. But the point is, for years we always thought, well, if you didn't lose consciousness, you couldn't have a concussion. Well, the fact of the matter is, we found out later that even losing consciousness isn't one of the biggest prognostic indicators of how bad the concussion will be. Losing memory is actually a bigger one. When you hear, I don't remember a thing about the event, that tells me that you may be having this concussion a lot longer if you said, I was out for 5 minutes. Okay. And in all these cases, while they probably ended up with a concussion, they didn't need to lose consciousness to have it. So, what's the big deal about concussions? We used to call it getting your bell rung. Okay, no one in my age group would ever think of not playing in a game just because they got their bell rung. And there was nothing of greater pride than for a kid to be able to say, I scored 3 goals and I don't remember one of them. Okay, but the fact of the matter is, because it was out of sight, out of mind, no one gave it 2 thoughts. Well, you know, you're going to get a headache for a while, but it'll go away. But let's remember what we're dealing with. The brain is the most important part of your body. In fact, everything else is window dressing for the brain. There's not an organ in your body or anything that you have on your body that doesn't directly affect the brain and keeping the brain alive. And at the same time, there's nothing you can do without your brain telling you to do it. You move your arm, you scratch, you blink, you look up, you give me one of these, it's your brain telling me to do it. You tired of me picking on you yet? So at the end of the day, it's all about your brain. So that's why this is so important. And yet for years we have ignored it, much to the chagrin of the NFL, NHL, and everybody else. So first and foremost, repetitive concussions will result in permanent injury. And I think we're starting to see that. You guys who follow sports, Sports Illustrated, ESPN News, it's out there. You see what happens over and over again to people who have redundant concussions. Okay, football players, we're seeing it right and left now. That's because they just went back in and played with one. There's nothing worse than having a concussion on top of a concussion. Pugilistic dementia. Pugilistic fighters, it was called pugilistic dementia. Basically, literally, they had dementia from getting hit to the head so much from boxing. And that's a great tragedy that's been known for years, but we just assume, well, that's just boxing and that's the price you pay. Not other sports. Well, we now know that virtually every sport it happens in. And if it's not that, then it's just other symptoms. Maybe it might not be so bad as pugilistic dementia, where they're literally in nursing homes and don't recognize people, but you might find later on that you have trouble remembering. You may find that you can't go to games anymore because the noise bothers you, or you just have trouble reading for any period of time without getting headaches, or you develop chronic headaches and migraines, and they can now attribute it back in many cases to the fact that you got whacked in the head too many times playing sports. Okay. And like any body injury, when it does occur, you get an injury and you get hurt again, it's more vulnerable at the time when you're injured. So if you have bruised your arm and you get hit again, that bruise is gonna hurt a lot longer and stay around a lot longer. Well, guess what? If you have a concussion and then you go out and play with it and you get hit again, that concussion is gonna be a lot worse than it would have been if you had the same hit to the head 2 months, 3 months later after the concussion had resolved. So again, it's one thing if it's your arm, it's another thing if it's your brain. So risk factors. All set? Is this when we're ready to go on this one?
Yep, here we go.
All right.
Okay, so now we're gonna use clickers in theory.
Okay. I'm not techno savvy.
Okay, so how many of you, does everybody have one of those little remote control things? Hold them up. All right, everybody hopefully, does anybody not have one? Oh.
Does anybody want one? Come on.
Volunteer, where's Sally?
Who stole the clickers?
Oh, Sally's running around with a few clickers. All right, so while she hands out the last couple here, I'm gonna explain how they work. So what you have is, it's a little remote control. In a minute, we're gonna ask you this question on the screen. I'm gonna hit play, and you're gonna see, actually you're not gonna see it, but I'm gonna tell you that you're gonna have 30 seconds to answer the question, true or false. And all you need to do is press A if the answer is true. She's coming back with the clickers. Or B if the answer is false. So we have a couple of these sort of scattered throughout the PowerPoint. It's to help keep you all awake and see if you're paying attention. And so in 1 second, actually, Sally, if you can run back down to the front with 2 more. Sorry.
That's fine. So, how many kids play soccer? Good. And football? Baseball? Basketball? All right. How many have had a concussion before? How many think they've had a concussion? Okay. So it's already starting.
All right, are we ready?
And here we go.
Here we go. All right, go ahead and click in. Oh, there's a little timer on the bottom. You have 30 seconds.
Nah, 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 nah.
We don't have the Jeopardy music here.
Okay,
10 seconds.
this is tough.
You have a 50-50 chance.
Can only flip that coin so many times.
All right.
And
And there we go. All right, this is what we thought.
well, unfortunately for you guys, it is true. So the younger you are, the more likely it's going to take longer to recover from the concussion than an adult. Okay, old brains don't hurt. So yeah, younger athletes, it takes longer to recover from concussions. That's been well qualified, that kids in middle school and high school, when they get injured, it takes longer than the college kids in high school and pros to recover. And unfortunately for the girls, well, you guys are great athletes and certainly deserve to be playing out there, gender does play a role. And you might notice something about the picture. Anyone want to hazard a guess? They're all females. So what do you think this picture is leading up to? The fact is, if you're a female, it's going to take longer to recover from the concussion, and statistically, you seem to get them more when you compare sports. So when you look at sports where there's an equal number of boys and girls playing, soccer and basketball in particular, but certainly soccer, they found that they were getting them more frequently in soccer, the girls were, and the recovery period took longer. I attribute that to the fact that the female brain is far superior to the male brain, and therefore, it's obviously going to take longer to recover something that's more intricate, okay? I'm just going to go with that as a theory. All right, and repetitive concussions, unfortunately, can lead to long-term disability. So what are the signs? It's more than just, I got a headache, I feel a little out of it. So there's a lot of different signs and symptoms that we have with concussions. And looking at them, we break it down into 4 groups. We call it the memory, physical, emotional, and sleep disturbance. And the most important ones, quite frankly, is the thinking and the memory, because you guys are student athletes. The athletic part may cause a concussion, but it's all about the academics. You are deserving of the grades you would have gotten if you didn't have a concussion. So we have to work with you to make sure that you get the appropriate grades. And the most important people I'm going to tell you in your life when you have a concussion are your family and, in particular, your teachers, okay? They're the ones who are going to get you through this, along with a lot of other people, but they're way up there. The doctor is way out in the periphery. So, trouble remembering, feeling slow, run down like you can't concentrate, these are all things that can occur. And certainly the ones we always think about are the headaches, the nausea, vomiting, visual changes, sensitivity to lights and noise. So there's really quite a few. And concussions, like almost any injury, can affect you emotionally. And the other thing that will drive you crazy if it happens is it really can wreak havoc on your sleep. So at the age when you love to sleep, all of a sudden you can't sleep at all. It is painful, especially for the parents when you wake them up letting them know you can't sleep. So how do you manage concussions? Well, first and foremost, the initial management, whether it is the parent, the coach, the referee, even another player, you got to be proactive in this. You have to remove the person from the game or the practice. If there's absolutely any concerns whatsoever, you got to remove them. In Massachusetts, referees, coaches, and trainers are obliged to remove you from the game. If it's nothing more than to say, hey coach, I want you to take a look at this kid. It was a pretty good hit he took, and get the trainer involved. But you don't leave them out on the field, no matter what, or the rink or the court. And you're going to have them, if they do get it, and it looks like a concussion, then the next step is you have them avoid strenuous activities and rest, okay? You just don't basically put them down completely, but you certainly cut back on the activities that they do, and you make sure that they avoid any type of contact. And you want to get evaluated by medical personnel that's knowledgeable in concussions. Fortunately, with concussion awareness, our training staff has become much better at this, as well as our coaches. And you people are extremely fortunate to have Jen Dow, because you know what, I'm going to tell you right now, listen, guys, girls, don't mess with her, all right? I'm just gonna tell you right now, she can see through you, she can read brains, she has eyes in the back of her head. If you have a concussion or an injury, she will know about it, and she will not let you back until you're ready. Okay, that's my bit of advice for you. If you don't believe me, wait till you meet her. All right. And so essentially, the other part of it is that you want to get the school involved early. This is the most important thing. You are student athletes. It's about the academics. You're not going to play college sports. Okay, I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm betting none of you play college sports. And if I bet on every one of you, maybe one or two will play, but I'm going to make a lot of money because most of you won't. Now, is that a bad thing? Absolutely not. But the benefits of sports goes a long way. I did not play college sports, all right? However, what I learned from sports got me from being a D student my freshman year at BC High to making the honor rolls my junior, senior year, and then working my way up to doing quite well in college. Okay, so the fact of the matter is, it was what I learned on the athletic field that gave me the determination, and I parlayed that into my academics. Academics, what you learn on the athletic fields is the motivation, the discipline, and you take that and you turn yourself into a student. And because of that, we have to make sure that the brain stays where it's supposed to be, in your head and doing well. And at the end of the day, the lessons learned, the camaraderie, the teamwork is what's going to bode well for you in the future. So we want you to play the sports. But if you get injured, that is set aside until you're ready again. Now, the neurocognitive testing is just one more way of looking at the brain. And what this is, it's the impact test. Everyone will take it as a freshman, and then you'll repeat it your junior year. And it's going to be a mini neurocognitive evaluation that looks at a few things. It's going to look at your memory, short-term memory, short-term visual memory, both words, visual, retention of that information, along with visual motor speed and reaction time. Visual motor speed or processing speed is how quickly you process the information and react to. Think about third base, you come up, there's somebody on first, you get the ball, it's hit right to you, you look up, the person's running to second, so you have to make a decision. Do I go to second for the double play or get the lead man? Can I get that person, or do I have to go to first base? And immediately you process all this information and then you react. What's the reaction? You take the ball and you throw it to wherever it's going. So that's the combination of the two. And this is what it looks at, and what it does is, especially if you have the baseline so we know where you stand, we can then use this information later to determine how close you are back to recovery or full recovery. And so it becomes an invaluable tool, not only for the schools, but for the doctors and other healthcare professionals that use it. Now, what it is and isn't is this. It is a very reliable tool. It helps us with information to communicate with others. It will certainly help direct us in the recovery process, but at the end of the day, you still need to be seen medically. You can't just use this test alone. In fact, the first thing I will throw out will be the impact test, simply because there's a lot of variables to the testing as well. And so there are times when I use it because there's certain trends and patterns that you see and you say, okay, you're not there yet. And other times, after taking it several times, I just realize, okay, you're just not going to do well at this test. Some kids do, some kids don't, and that can have an impact. Now, classroom management, this is one of the most important areas. Why? Because it's all about the academics, guys. We all want you to go to college, we all want you to be productive. And that's why we manage these concussions, so you don't spend the rest of the life with injuries from the concussion, and that you do well in school. It's not about rushing you back. You have to let the brain heal, and it has to heal at your pace. And every concussion is different. And it's going to be a real team approach. It does not come down to you and your teachers. It comes down to you, the school staff, the guidance counselors involved, the school nurses involved, the athletic trainers involved, your coaches are involved, all your teachers are involved, your parents are involved, as well as the medical community. Okay, so there's a lot of input that goes into making sure that, one, you heal, and two, that you continue to progress academically so you don't fall too far behind. So what it is concussions can result in a lot of different things. It can be cognitive complaints, there can be physical complaints. You might have trouble focusing and concentrating. You may also just find that I can't sit in the classroom because the lights bother my eyes and the headache, I get bad headaches, all of which have to be addressed. So at the end, we have to figure out what your symptoms are. We have to figure out how best to treat the symptoms so that you can continue to learn, but at your pace, and that the symptoms don't get exacerbated. So in most cases, the good news is you heal pretty quickly. But in some, it can take a lot longer time. And individually, not only do you need plans in terms of how to handle the concussion, but you may also need different plans for different classes, because you can read okay, and history and English are fine. However, when I get into my math class, I just can't focus that strongly. And so math, science, and languages just really, really hurt. And then after everything is said and done, you have the return to play. So now you've gotten a concussion, you got seen, you got accommodations, you've worked through the concussion, the teachers have worked with you to make sure that you're catching up with the schoolwork, you're taking your tests, you're getting the grades that you deserve, you are learning the material at your pace, and you're feeling a lot better, and now you go to the doctor and say, I feel great, test me, I'm ready to go. And so the doctor or the nurse practitioner or whoever tests you and determines that you are back to your baseline. Congratulations, you appear to be concussion-free. Go in peace, hope you never see me again. Well, it's not that simple, because now what we're gonna do is we're going to see if we can reproduce a concussion. And the analogy I use is you guys wouldn't know about this, but the parents would be more familiar. You're older, 60, 70 years old, and you basically walk up steps and you get chest pain, so you show up in my ER, and I'm listening to you and saying, that could be your heart. So what we're gonna do is admit you to make sure you don't have a heart attack. And then tomorrow, my friend the cardiologist is gonna stick you on a treadmill and see if we can give you one. Okay, and we do the same thing here. We're gonna try to see if we can reproduce the symptoms by having you do what's called a return to play. And it's a progression. You start with some aerobic activities, you increase the amount of aerobic activities, do sport-specific drills on another day. Then you go working even further into more activities, followed by a non-contact practice, a full contact practice, and then a game. And if you get through the game without symptoms, you're cleared. And if at any point in time, the symptoms occur, we have to back you off. So what does that mean? If your doctor sends a note and says he can play Saturday and it's Friday, you can't. I, as a physician, can clear you to do the return to play. I cannot clear you to play back in the game until the return to play is cleared. Okay, no physician, unless they are willing to walk you through the return to play, is allowed to clear you to return to full contact or games, all right? So I'm telling you this now because oftentimes we still get letters and it becomes a dilemma because the misinformation causes some conflict between the schools and the doctors. The school, the athletic trainer, has the last say. They will determine when you, your child, can return to full activities. So, athletes, don't downplay the concussion or ignore the symptoms. You're the athletes, by the way. You guys over there, all right? Don't ever go back to a game or practice if you think you have a concussion. It's important that you advocate for yourself. If you think you have a head injury, don't go back in. You gotta seek the help, you have to keep the positive attitude. You didn't let your team down by not playing. For parents, concussions are real. Fortunately, I hear less and less about how they're not. They are student athletes. You are their support system. And you have to be that support system and let them know that you're not disappointed, that they're not letting you down by them not playing. And one last thing is, just remember, as crazy as your kids may be in high school, they are our future. So So drug use in Stoughton, sorry, it could be Canton, it could be any town. So this is what we're looking at, 2010, 2015 opioid overdoses in Stoughton. And unfortunately, this map, as I said, is not part and parcel to Stoughton. It is in Canton, it is in Easton. You name the town, it is in the wealthy towns like Weston and Wellesley. This is an epidemic that has hit everywhere. And now we are going to play whatever you're calling this.
All right. So we're going to ask you, and you can go, what percentage of Stoughton High students have ever misused prescription drugs? That means ever in their life, they've used a prescription drug in a way they aren't supposed to. So click quickly. Let me know how many clickers.
How the clickers used going. Have we clicked?
Yeah, we're going. Five.
Time's almost up.
Okay. 9% is your correct answer.
Well, fortunately for you guys, it's 9%, not C. In any case, it's probably a little lower in Stoughton than it is other parts. But this is a sad commentary. This is not new to or indigenous to this town. It is everywhere, and it is an epidemic that has to be addressed. So, lifetime drug use. Have you ever used? Both Stoughton High student, that gives you an idea of different things that are being used. And by the way, at least we forget, alcohol, marijuana is still out there. We haven't really touched on it, but alcohol is still the most abused drug out there. So athletes and drug abuse. So first off, this is a true story. I was at work, an overdose, 24-year-old male, he overdosed on heroin, and he asked for a work note. And I gotta tell you, most cases, they don't ask for work notes. So I bit and I asked him, how did this all happen? And essentially, he blew out his knee playing soccer in high school. He said colleges were looking at him. He had an operation, first operation, they gave him 90 oxycodone. And then it got infected, so they gave him another 90. And then they had to clean it out, so he got another 90. And by now, as he put it, I'm hooked. Okay. Let me tell you, he was hooked on the first 90. That was well above the average it takes for somebody to start becoming addicted or having withdrawals from narcotics. And he said, Doc, I didn't wake up one morning and decided I wanted to use heroin. So, athletes and narcotics, what's the problem here? Well, it is, quite frankly, a very potential lethal combination. Okay. Why? Because the athlete's psyche, you guys want to play. And quite frankly, the game's more important than your health. It was for when I was younger, and it will be for you guys. You will see yourself as very much as part of a team, and you will want to do anything you can to play. How? Coach, put me in, I can play, it's only a bruise, I only got my bell rung, I'm fine. You'll want to do anything possible to get in the game. It means, for the majority of you, that much. Okay, am I saying that's right? Absolutely not. But that is the psyche of the athlete, to be part of it, to be, the adrenaline of winning, to be out there with your teammates. And the other thing, whether you're female or males, you're risk takers. Athletes will take risks because they will do things in order to win. And winning takes extraordinary acts by ordinary people working together, teamwork. It makes you bigger and stronger. Pittsburgh Penguins, they were not the best team on paper in the NHL. They are the Stanley Cup champions. They are the world champions. Why? Because they came together and played and did extraordinary things at the right time. And you're emotionally bonded to the team. You want to be part of it. Okay. You will put your own individual goals over for the team. And everyone remembers, as I said, the names of their coaches, the records. No one ever remembered their math teachers or their grades. This is the influence sports has on you. And basically, the last thing you ever want to do is let your team down. So, what do narcotics do for you? Well, here you have the perfect scenario. You have the athlete, a winning season. You're part of that team. You're experiencing, a period of greatness in your life, and now you get an injury. And so you're hurt. You're in a lot of pain. It's preventing you from playing. But narcotics, well, they let you play through the pain. Okay. They also provide, if you are injured, a euphoria, an emotional way of just dealing with the discomfort. It makes everything more tolerable. People do not originally get addicted to the pain medication. They get addicted to the euphoria. Why? Because you've been hurt. Your life is in shambles. What you care about most of the sport is being taken away from you, maybe even for a small period of time. But throw on the fact that, that rotator cuff injury may cost you a chance for playing next year or going to college where you want to go. And so you're, to say the least, you're bummed out. So now the doctor gives you these pills that just basically will mellow you out. And so you figure, well, it really doesn't hurt anymore, but if I'm just going to lie around here, I might as well be comfortable and mellowed, because when I'm not taking them, all I can think about is how miserable I am. So you take them for the euphoria, the emotional attachments. But at first it may be the euphoria you get and the emotional attachment, but that's going to lead on from an emotional craving to a physical one. And so what ultimately happens is, after a certain point in time, you start taking them, they keep you mellow, they keep you comfortable, and so you take another one because there's nothing else to do, and you like the feeling, and you don't have to think about the injury itself. Then all of a sudden you say, okay, well, enough is enough, and then you start getting cramps and belly pains and sweaty, and you realize, if I take another one, that goes away. Well, now you're becoming physically addicted to the medication. And all the while, that injury itself, the pain really stopped a long time ago. So you've gone from needing it maybe for a day or two for the pain, to using it to just get emotionally through the period of time, and now all of a sudden you're having physical addiction, cravings for it, and your body's saying, give me more, give me more. And because of that, you are on your way to full-fledged addiction. So what ultimately will happen, and this is a typical scenario for these kids that you may have heard about, they get the injury, they use the medication, they do it for the emotional craving that it gives them. They all of a sudden realize that physically they need it because they're getting what we call withdrawals, or the cramps and the sweats. And then all of a sudden they go to the doctor, and the doctor gives them a refill because they lied. They said, well, it still hurts, so they get a refill. And then now they go home with the medications, they use them again. It only worsens the physical addiction. Now the doctor or the nurse practitioner says, no more. I'm not giving you any more. And then you go, I need something. So you talk to a friend who might say, I can get you some pills. But after a while, those pills get really expensive. So before you know it, you're on the streets shooting up heroin. Now, I understand you're sitting here going, that's bull. I can't tell you how many times I hear that story. And when I see these kids that it's happened to, I see your faces. 20, maybe 25 years older, but I still see your faces in this, what they describe, the experience they were going through, the excitement of being part of a team, and how it all was destroyed by an injury. And by the way, the kid that I was talking about, he was from Stoughton. So, parents, what can you do? Well, first off, talk to your child's doctor about the safest and most effective treatment. We don't need narcotics. So it's really important that we make it perfectly clear to the doctor that we don't want more than what we need. And you gotta control all the medications and make sure you know how many pills are being taken and how many are still in the bottle. And always supervise. When kids are young, you're the one supervising what they take and what they don't take. Never share the medications. Keep the medications in the original container so you know what they are. You want to keep the medications in a safe place. Think locked up. Not in the medicine cabinet, locked up. And when you're done with them, get rid of them. So, from the standpoint of you as your child's advocate, don't ever accept a large amount of narcotics from a healthcare professional. You don't need them. The great oxymoron is this. You tear up your knee, you go to physical therapy, the doctor tells you to take some Motrin and Tylenol, ice elevation, that goes on for about 2 or 3 months, doesn't get better, they get an MRI, they say, okay, we're gonna fix it. So they fix it, they get rid of the problem. And now they pump you up with narcotics. 1 or 2 days of narcotics is really all you need. And quite frankly, I'm saying that only because we become so indoctrinated that narcotics are better, when in fact, that's not the case. There are better ways of treating pain without the use of narcotics. We don't go down that pathway for several reasons, but unfortunately, we have duped the medical community. Pharmaceuticals have duped medical community into think narcotics were better, and we turned around and duped the patients into it. So if they give you more than 1 or 2 days, tell them to rewrite the script. And now,
All right, I'm just gonna hit go. And you can answer true or false.
yeah, little thing he's going.
There you go. Oh, people.
True. Why do you think that you didn't really know this before? Well, here's a little story of how it went. Purdue Pharmaceuticals got a hold of a prescription, the company that made oxycodone, the 3 brothers, the Sackler brothers, whose names are on virtually every medical school in the country because of the money they donated, decided that we have to sell our product. So they went out to doctors and showed bogus statistics showing that narcotics were safe in acute pain and that it was better than other forms of pain relief. And one of the studies they would show was that it was better than Motrin and Tylenol. Well, they made up the studies. They had companies do the studies for them. They were bogus studies. So then they came along and said, oh, you know, Motrin is like aspirin, it can cause bleeding. And lo and behold, a bunch of surgeons said, hey, it seemed like they bled more if they were on Motrin. We can't have them on Motrin. So before you know it, Motrin was seen as a problem. Indocin and all the types of medications like Motrin was seen as a problem. They convinced everybody that the narcotics were better, and just for safe purposes, we'll add acetaminophen or Tylenol to our pills so you get double the benefit. And before you know it, we became a country that doped up their patients because 80% of all narcotics are prescribed in the United States. 80% of all worldwide narcotics are prescribed in the United States. 20% are prescribed outside. So, at the end, with prescriptions, never accept a prescription until you have been told the side effects and the doctor has answered all the questions. And know how many pills have been taken, keep them all locked up. Use only what you need and dispose of the rest. And Stoughton is one of the many towns now where you can dispose of all medications at the pharmacy. And as I said, realize that it all starts with the emotional high. That's what catches you because you just got injured. And before you know it, that emotional high or craving turns into a physical one. And if you do if you are worried that this is the case, you know, look for what the problems might be. If you think your kid has a substance abuse problem or is going down that pathway, you got to be sure that you've done everything in your power to address that. Kids at 13, 14, 16 years old, they can act really peculiar, and you might try to blame it on their age, but at the end of the day, make sure it is their age. And it's not necessarily a sports injury that will cause it. It'll just be that they're going to try things. Alcohol, drugs, marijuana, they're all going to try things. This is the age of doing it, so you have to keep a close eye on them. And if you see a change in their sleep habits, their attitudes, their behavior, lack of motivation, become very disinterested in things that they really like, those are issues that you really have to consider as key factors in that something else could be going on. New friends is a big problem. You start seeing a whole new group of friends after they've been hanging out with the same kids for years, you should be worried. And what about their grades? Are they becoming secretive, stealing? Are they deceitful? They used to tell you exactly where they were and what time they'd be home, and now you can't get a straight answer from them. And as I like to say, if you're paying for the phones, they're yours to look at. So go creeping. Social media is a great place to find out what's going on. Check their texts. You're paying for the phone. If they're using, they're calling somebody for the stuff, and you're going to find the numbers there or the text messages. And if there is a problem, chances are it's hidden in plain view. Okay, go into their room, and if you look around, you probably will find the problem right there in their bedroom. That's their sanctuary. And if you do have it, you better start getting ready for the fight of your life, because you have to get your kid back. And trust me, because if you look at the amount of overdoses we're seeing, we're not succeeding in many, many cases. And you're not going to do this by yourself. You're going to need help. So what does that mean? You're going to have to go out, seek help from other people, and you're going to have to go out and find out what's going on. And as I said, I always tell parents, you know, you're the first to know. It's just a matter of you believing what your gut is telling you. You don't always want to believe it. But oftentimes, you will know well before anybody else that something's up. You'll just viscerally know it. And then you have to work on it. And if that's the case, start talking to the coaches, old friends, teachers, find out what's going on. And if you do find out that there's a substance abuse problem, do not try to do this on your own. I call that the Irish Catholic parochial mentality. The world is great, everything is perfect. Oh my God, my children are doing great, and on the inside, they're all beating each other up inside the house. But the fact of the matter is, this is something that is incomprehensible to anybody who has not experienced it, and it is something that you have to get the personal help and the resources behind you to save your child's life, and that is what you're doing. And at the end of the day, while I can stand here and talk about all the different ways that we can make a change, what I want to be impressed upon you is that sports injuries, because your kids are active, is going to be one of the keynote ways that your child could become addicted. And it is incumbent upon you to basically take control of the situation. And if the doctors don't do the right thing, then you force them to do the right thing for your child.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. News, thank you so much for coming. Coming to an athletics info round, I'm not sure if you thought that you were going to take in all that info about how serious traumatic brain injuries are and opioid use. This is an example of us really trying to do the right thing here. If this is one target group that could potentially be affected by this is something we want to try to inform early and often. So I really appreciate your attention there. Let me just switch this around. We'll just do a quick tutorial of the online webpage, and then we'll start to move you guys on out of here, okay?
Questions?
Are they ready to go here? Yeah. All right, actually, I have 3 athletic-specific questions. Everybody have their clickers ready? Okay. Okay, what do you value most in athletics? Playing time, championships, memories, or big picture experience? Remember, big picture experience is understanding what it's like to go through adversity, sportsmanship, all those things. All right, people, you're going to fit in great here. Big picture experience, I'll tell you, is everything. That's why we do it. Creating lifelong memories with the people you've shared the experience with is great. And of course, we certainly value, students that do and families that have worked hard to earn that playing time and work towards getting championships. We just came really close with baseball this year. The South Sectional semifinalists, like 2 games away from being South Sectional champs. So, like, you know, we're definitely moving in the right path. I'm happy to see that people are in line with that. Next question. What do you value the most about a coach? Do you want a coach that really focuses on skill development? Do you want a coach to be somebody who provides great guidance through these next 4 years? Do you want a coach that all they care about is winning, and maybe not as much of the emotional side of things, it's just win, win, win? Or do you like a coach that actually has a little sarcasm to him? Do you like a coach that likes to crack some jokes or maybe, you know, pokes fun at you know, anyone and everyone? Okay, great. Wow, that's great. And skill. Okay, good. So skill development is a big thing. That's something that I feel like at the youth ages is definitely important, but as we get older, we hope that a lot of the skills have already been developed by the time they get here, and now we work a lot more on strategy. But we do definitely focus on that. Guidance, I honestly think that coaches are, you know, some of the biggest influence in my life have been coaches. So you have some great ones here ready for you to provide your sons or daughters or you as student athletes with some guidance. Last one, a lot of the information that I will be releasing in the athletic department is via Twitter. Okay, so this is just a pure, you know, selfish reason. I just want to see how many people have a Twitter account. Or I mean, so I have a Twitter account. Social media scares me. It's just like the worst. But honestly, what Dr. Luis did say about your right to check your son or daughter's phone, do that. And student athletes, I wouldn't put anything else out there that you wouldn't want your parents or me or your coaches to see. Okay, so we do have some with the Twitter account. No, people who do not have a Twitter account, that is okay. On our athletics webpage, there is a direct link towards our Twitter account. It's just a live feed. Anything that I put up, whether the game has been changed to a different date, or here's the address of the location, or this team won, this is the final score, all that stuff will be on the athletics webpage as well as Twitter. If you have your phone, that's a good way to do it. Okay, those are the last 3 questions that we have for athletics, and we're just going to go over a quick couple of things, and then you guys are on your way.
And we need those clickers on the way out. So on your way out, Sally and I are going to hang out in the back so you can drop your clickers with us because they're no good to you in the real world. So please return them to us.
Yes, and those clickers are the key to time meeting moving faster. So absolutely, if you want to get to the time meeting quicker, parents, make sure you get those clickers back to them on the way out. Okay, so we talked about injuries. A great way to prevent injuries is preventative maintenance or really working for preseason conditioning. Here at Stoughton High School, free of charge. Monday through Friday over the summer, we offer free preseason conditioning every week for leading in, like the last week of school. The following Monday, we start up 5 days a week, with the exception of the 4th of July. But other than the 4th of July, our weight room on the athletic side is going to be supervised by structured workouts with qualified coaches for the job that are going to provide workouts for your student athletes to go in there. They're going to walk in, they're going to learn a lot about lifting weights and preseason conditioning. There's going to be a great mix of core lifting along with agility and cardiovascular exercise so that when the first day of tryouts happens, they're not shaking the rust off. They're like mid-season form ready to go, and they will be able to avoid those injuries that we're talking about. So this is a huge piece. If you want to make sure you're avoiding any type of injuries, this is a great way to do it. The workout times listed below. If you plan to play football, they have the weight room and fitness center all set from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., okay? And the reason why it's just football is because they have a lot of guys in there, okay? And they're moving around a lot of weight as they get older. But if you're young and you're not really used to that, they're still, they're very good about transitioning into make sure that you have the right form. And it's all about technique with us. And then the open sessions afterwards. We've had a big increase in volleyball, soccer, have both dialed into those. I think the 10 to 11, like field hockey, is starting to come on board. So if either of those times work for you, you can come to those sessions. All you have to do is just show up, and then you are good to go. And it's free all summer long. And you know, it can really help you get in some of the best shape of your life. So we really hope that you join us for those over the summer. And then just just a couple last things. The goal of the athletic department is to provide a great experience for your son or daughter as they compete in interscholastic athletics. Odds are they will make unforgettable, positive memories with their lifelong friends through shared experiences. A priority of mine as the athletic department is to be as transparent as possible, okay? So before we do the online tutorial, and while I start to kind of get there, I am totally open to any type of questions that anyone has heading into next year. If you're thinking of one now, that's fine. If you just put your hand up. Yes?
Question for Dr. Muse, if you would.
Sure.
Are you familiar with the work of Dr. Bennett Omalu?
No.
The research into CTE?
Oh, in terms of CTE, yes.
Are you on board with that?
I would say the jury's still out on it. I think it's great work, but there's a lot that's coming out. One of the bigger problems is, first, yes, there is definitely injuries that are permanent to the brain. Two, but that, with respect to the CTE, what they're looking at is that they're finding in the control group a lot of the same findings. So that brings to question how significant are these changes. I absolutely feel they're on the right track, but it's in its infantile stages, so that in terms of what the information is coming out is that they're moving in the right direction, but there's more to it than just the physical findings that they're getting out of autopsy.
Great. Excellent. Any other questions? Well, how about if you think of them over the next minute or two while we go through the online tutorial? Just put your hand up and I'll just call on you. Okay, so to get to the athletics registration and make sure that you are all set and registered, you're just going to go to stoughtonschools.org, okay, and then you're going to hover over departments, and then athletics is the third one down. Okay, you click athletics. Then when you're athletics, first thing that you're going to want to see is you'll see the black knight over here, and that means that you know you're in the right place. Now, if you go down in the middle of the page, this is that Twitter account I was just talking about, okay? So this is the direct Twitter account that I run. It's called @Stoughton_AD, okay? So this is, if you see it come from this Twitter account, you know that it's right from me. So just for example, reminder that the SHS 2016-17 Athletics Info Night starts at 5:30 p.m. in the auditorium, guest speaker Dr. Muse. We just had a great, a Golden Knight winner this past year in the senior class. He finished 10th in New England's in track and field, just an exceptional kid. Good to see him doing the right thing. We had, this was our South Sectional semifinalist game. Our baseball team won the Davenport division of the Hockomock League. This is just some awards night. So anything you want to get caught up on, oh, look at this. Thank you. This is going to be awesome, getting that new school. So that's right at the athletics webpage. But if you want to register, you're just going to click register now, this button right here, boom. And that's going to bring you to your family ID page. Once you're at the family ID page, you're just going to go down here, and you're going to need, well, actually, you're going to need to create an account up top here. Make sure that you save that account information because you can have it for your 4 years and it will stay updated as you go through and it'll help you make the registration process that much quicker. So then you're just going to go down below the pictures and you're just going to click Fall Athletics Registration. And then you're just going to follow the bouncing ball through the whole process. One thing that you're going to want to make sure you look at, if the general rules of the athletic department are found here, well, actually they're not found there. The athletics handbook is available on our regular website right here. So you can pull this up. This is just the general, this has everything in it from being late to, physicals, all the things that we talked about. And then it's just kind of like if you need that in the future, it's there for you. And I would definitely advise to take a look at it. And then the next piece over here is the concussion education video. This is something that I mentioned earlier that you have to do with your student athlete. They have to watch this even though you were just educated on concussions. You just go down to this brain and you click the brain and then it just starts going, okay? Make sure at the end of that you save the completion code because in the Family ID registration part, you're going to need that completion code in order to advance through the registrations, okay? So that certifies that you, as somebody who has signed up for athletics, has met that standard, and you have that completion code, which means that you have abided by the law. So let's see if this makes us come up with a login. So yeah, so this is what it'll look like when you start to go through. And then these are the offerings. It also talks about the first day. So even though we're going to be registering right now, the first day for general teams is going to be Thursday, August 25th. And that's usually like 8 a.m. most teams are starting. Thursday, August 25th. If you're playing football, it's actually a little bit earlier this year because of safety protocol. But they're actually starting the previous Friday, the 19th, and they'll go Friday and Saturday and then be there that whole week. So you would go to create an account here. And then this is also a resource where you can just click here to go to your online payment and it's a one-stop shop, okay? And this has a bunch of things that like I said, you're just gonna kind of follow the bouncing ball on the way through it. My email address is right here if you do need it. Please feel free to hit me up. I do get a pretty good volume of emails, but I will do my absolute best to get back to you as soon as we can. As a parent, this is a huge one. If you are going to be going to away games or you're just curious as to where students are playing, you can just click direction to venue. It has all of our Hockomock League schools along with our off-campus, like our skating rink and pools. But then it also has just, if we were going to Attleboro and our JV baseball team was playing, it's actually played at the Brennan Middle School, which is actually right next door. So that's alphabetically by Hockomock League and some of the other teams that we go against. Okay. All right, does anybody have any further questions? Oh, yeah.
What about if your child's playing just spring sports like baseball, outdoor track? When do you sign up for that?
That's a great question. So how that's going to work, and like I said, we definitely encourage multiple season athletes. You know, the more we can get to participate, the better we're going to be. But if, let's say you're just going to play baseball, registrations for baseball don't happen until the spring is really coming to a close. So usually those will open up, I would say, right around February vacation, because the spring season really starts right around St. Patrick's Day, which is the 17th of March. And same thing goes with the winter. So if you are going to be registering for a winter sport, that registration won't really open up until Halloween. And from Halloween to probably the second week in November would be the registration grace period. And then you would be set to go for the day after Thanksgiving, the winter starts. Unless with Coach Burke this year, they're going to be playing at Gillette later, knock on wood. They got a great team coming. We're excited about that. They might have a little bit of an overlap, but that's not really something for 8th grade families to worry about. Also, I did put an August 1st deadline on the registration process. So for you all, I would recommend going online to the Family ID page and getting the registration set before school ends. That way you know you're completely all set. If you don't do it by then, you would just need to make sure that you get the registration by August 1st. If we don't have your online registration done by August 1st, as a penalty, you're going to be sitting out the first day of tryouts, okay? Because we have to hold our students accountable, and sometimes all students and families really understand is when you're being held out of things, okay? So I hate that it has to come to that, but that's the deal. So August 1st, if you want to play on the first day, you're going to make sure your physical is in, you got to make sure that your athletic fee is paid, and then you also have to make sure that your online registration is all set. Any other questions? Yep, Carrie. So I would say that the football workouts really happen, and then captain's practice are usually generated by the seniors who are going to be doing that. Goes for all sports. Captain's practices aren't things that I'm really allowed to sanction. It's more student leaders trying to really get their team set to go for the start of the year and build that camaraderie up, okay? So if your student athlete wants to get involved in that, I think probably the best way to know about that stuff is to start going to those workouts where you'll see some of the older student athletes there, and you can talk about those, and then you'll find out word of mouth that way. Yes?
And if I'm registering multiple kids, do I have to watch the video multiple times?
I think that you might be able to get away with just putting the same concussion code down, okay? That would be my, I would try that first, to be honest. I think the concussion video runs about 25 minutes, something like that, okay? Yes?
Do you pay the money for registration? What if they don't make a team?
Great question. So if it's a situation where the question was if the student athlete doesn't make the team, how does the refund work? So there's a 10-day grace period that we give student athletes for the refunding of a fee. So let's say it's a situation where a student athlete did get cut, we would refund the money right away. This is a new online system, so I'm not exactly sure what the turnaround is, if it's 30 days, if it's 14 days, if it's the same day. I don't really know how that works, but I can guarantee that you'll get your money back. But if the student decides to run cross country and they're running, 5, 6, 7 miles a day in practice, and they do it for 4 days and they realize that this just isn't for them, that would be within the 10-day grace period. However, if it went past 10 days, that money would no longer be refundable, okay? So if you're playing soccer and you're having, it's halfway through the season and you're not getting as much playing time as you thought, if you decide to quit at that point, that money is not refundable, okay? But then again, you can also do a winter or a spring sport and it won't cost you anything. Anything else? Yes? Nope, the online, so it's not connected. Like you can't just, if you wanted to complete the registration, you can complete the registration and then visit the online payment at a different time if that's convenient for you. You wouldn't need to make the payment in order to complete the registration. That's a great question. Okay. And that, the payment deadline that we're doing, it's gonna be that Monday, the last Monday in August. So your registration can be done. You can have the first couple of days to try out for a sport, and then the payment would be due on that Monday. So it would go Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday would be off, Monday comes, and then that's when the payment's due. The way that it's gonna work is that week scrimmages come up, and if the payment isn't made at that point, your son or daughter won't get a uniform until that payment is made, and that's just how it'll be. Any other questions? Well, I really appreciate everyone's time today. I hope you walked away knowing that your son or daughter, they're gonna be in good hands with us. We take injury prevention very seriously, and that's why we brought it to your attention. We've been involved with Signature Healthcare and the Sports Smart program for about 6 years now, so we're one of the leaders in that field with the return to play policy and just making sure you have all the confidence in us that you guys are in a great place, and we're gonna make some great memories here at Stoughton High School. Great. Well, thank you so much. Have a great night, everyone. Take care.